Everything from clothing to household items are getting more expensive each day. American Giant is about keeping things simple and close to home. They aren't affected by tariffs because their products never leave the U.S. Support American-made tariff-free clothing with American Giant with American Giant. Get 20% off your first order when you use promo code STAPLE20 at american-giant.com. That's 20% off when you use code STAPLE20 at american-giant.com.
In a so-called free state, officials and stakeholders concoct solutions to problems often created by other bureaucrats and with little regard for infringements on the people. These stories are born at the apex of freedom and entrepreneurship. We foolishly advocate for the taxpayer. Brian's Beat presents Freedom Fools.
Hour 3 of Freedom Fools. Glad to have you. Got a few things to talk about. If you'd like to go back to the rent control, you are more than welcome to do so on hour number 3 at 508-996-0500. Woo! My thanks again to Elijah D'Souza. Love when he comes in studio and he starts talking about the stuff dealing with Eversource and utilities in particular. And I'm hoping, fingers are crossed here, I'm hoping that the Attorney General finds that at least the question dealing with opting in on the smart meters, I hope that she says, yeah, this is a go, so we can go out there and get up the signatures and get up a whole bunch of signatures, certified signatures, to make the Bacon Hill lawmakers know that we, the people, we're serious about this. And you may not, you being the Bacon Hill lawmakers, you may not have control over the Department of Public Utilities, but you've got enough behind you to give the ballot initiative your blessing, or go ahead and just enact it right then and there, the way that it is. That's what I'm hoping Bacon Hill lawmakers will do. Am I sure that that's what they're going to do? Am I willing to bet that's what they're going to do? No, I'm not willing to. The Brian's Beat quote of the day. I always wanted to make sure my parents didn't have to work again for the rest of their lives. Deion Sanders. I think he lived up to that expectation, that wish, that burning desire that he had to become a professional baseball player, and then a head football coach at the high school and at the college level. He has done what he was passionate about doing, what he dreamed about doing. I always wanted to make sure my parents didn't have to work again for the rest of their lives. It's pretty noble. Okay, 508-996-0500 during hour number 1. We talked about the pending ballot question dealing with rent control. We had Renee Ledbetter from United Interfaith Action on with us. Her organization supports what they call rent stabilization. To me, it's just a play on words. Stabilization means control because you are controlling how much that landlord can, in effect, raise rent. I am of the more purist of feeling that if a landlord tries to raise that rent too much, nobody's going to rent from her or him. And you might end up out in the streets for a little bit. Nobody wants that. But at some particular point, you've got to say, do I try to come up with this rent only to know that in 60 days I'm going to be out on my butt? Am I going to try to rent that apartment knowing that if I don't leave because I can't pay, that I'm in court and I get that demerit on my credit record? I don't think so. Here are some of the things that I don't think rent stabilization can control. One would be that a landlord has other things that have increased. And as I mentioned earlier, if you've got an adjustable rate mortgage and you can't swim out of it, then that price keeps going up and up and up, or has the potential to keep going up and up and up. Same thing is happening with the main utilities, the part of the infrastructure that landlords need to take care of. As your utility bill goes up in the house, their utility bill goes up in order to keep the central lighting going, in order to keep whatever central heat needs to flow through the place going, or central air that needs to go. They've got to take care of that. They've got to take care of the snow removal, which fortunately we haven't had that much, but that's down here. If you are up, because this is a statewide ballot question, they've gotten a lot more snow out in the western part of the state, and certainly in the Metro West and Worcester County area, a lot more snow than we have seen down here. So snow removal is big to them. They have to pay that increasing bill. They have to take care of lawn maintenance if there's lawn associated with the property. They have to make sure that the trash gets out, gets collected, that there are trash cans for you to place the trash into. They have to take care of sewage. Now, there can easily and have been spikes in some of these prices. You know it and I know it. They also have the same type of grocery bill that you have to pay. I don't see rent stabilization taking care of that stuff. So it has to work out for the landlord as well as work out for the tenant. And I believe, this is me talking, I believe Bacon Hill lawmakers see that writing on the wall. As I mentioned the other day, there are Bacon Hill lawmakers that are also commercial property owners as well as rental property owners. And if you've got a 6-unit or more, you qualify as commercial property owner, even if you have tenants in those buildings. And so they've got the bug in the ear of their fellow state rep, their fellow state senator. So this is a tough cookie to crumble. All right, if you'd like to talk about it, more than welcome to get into it with you. I'm against rent stabilization. I can tell you in the early to mid 1990s, I was part of the fight to stop rent control in basically 3 or 4 communities here in the Commonwealth. And as of this particular moment, I am still in that struggle. I am still waging that battle. Because I think that one of the major problems is the fact that there is not enough housing. I don't want to label it there's not enough affordable housing, because what the hell is affordable housing? It's a housing that you can afford. But you might be able to afford it, but can I afford to have you in that housing? And just because you can afford it, does it mean that the single parent with 2 kids can afford it? The dual income family, does it mean that they can afford it? So affordable housing is a nicely coined term, but nobody can really tell us what does it mean. Nobody can give us some kind of figure that says this is affordable. This might not be affordable. This is moderate income housing. 508-996-0500. I appreciate your patience. Hello.
Brian, this is Sam, the old unofficial co-host of all of the radio talk show hosts.
Sam, the check man.
Sam, the check man, yes. I like your show on the weekends. It's good to have someone in there, and you're a great choice for this.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm calling because I have only been catching bits and pieces of the whole smart meter thing, and I was wondering if you know a website or something, a place that I can go to get some more information. I forgot the gentleman's name. I didn't write it down at the time that you had in the studio. So is there a place that I can go to find out more?
Are you on
what he's doing?
Facebook?
I am not on Facebook.
Okay.
But I do have a computer, but I don't have Facebook.
Okay, well, the site that he gave out and the site that I first found him on is known as Citizens Against Eversource.
Okay.
Okay.
Citizens Against Eversource, yes. Okay.
And maybe you go to the library and reach out to him because and you can also read up about what they're doing. The other thing that I'm going to suggest, if you want to get his contact information, go to the Attorney General's website, Massachusetts Attorney General. Just do a search like that. Look, and then look under ballot questions. And the questions 42 to 47 will also have his contact information as an email and phone number.
Very good. Awesome. That's good. While I was on hold listening to the affordable housing, I agree with you. What's affordable to me may not be affordable to, I may not be able to afford what Donald Trump can afford, obviously, right?
Exactly.
Everybody else has got a lot of money, so and
you don't need to have a lot of money.
Well, I don't know how you get through life without having some money.
No, what I'm trying to say is, what's affordable, if your family income is $45,000 and you can't afford it, but the person that's making $65,000 can afford it, well, that's still not a lot of money, making $65,000.
No, it's not.
Compared to $65 million.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, my wife is selling real estate again. She's been doing it for like 25 years now. And,
what does she think?
She's just actually, going back a few months, maybe like 6 months ago, she was like totally surprised at the prices of 3 families and things like that in the city. That the prices they were asking for these. She had the listing of the person that had a 3-family, and it needed some work. And she was trying to get like $695 for this place, and it's like I just can't imagine paying that much money for a 3-family house, especially when it needs work. I mean, some people, a lot of the neighborhoods were really kept up. Not to pick on any one thing, but the Portuguese people used to do a real good job at keeping their properties very neat and well maintained. And I could see there being value, but can you imagine a 3-family home being $600,000?
No.
And no, it just doesn't make sense. And how do you rent that out to cover your mortgage? That's a rent I couldn't afford. I
don't know what a mortgage on a 600. I don't know. At 600,000, if you put down only 5%, that's $30,000.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, who's got that in their backyard?
That's the biggest problem. And most of them are not just 5%. Especially these days, the banks don't want to take the chance because they know it's overinflated. So they're requiring 10% at least to get into those types of mortgages.
Well, then who's got $60,000 buried behind John George's farm?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how they're doing it. I'm just glad that I'm in my 60s and have planned my life well, that I have a mortgage that isn't a serious amount, and if I needed to, I could pay it off and be done with it. But it's such a low payment right now because I was back when the days were interest rates of 4% or so. I just don't pay it off because it's kind of convenient to have the taxes paid automatically for me without having to make the payment myself. So,
sure, I get it, but couldn't it get to the point that I don't know your age, but couldn't it get to the point that all of a sudden your Social Security and your pension or whatnot gets exhausted by the rising taxes and everything else?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I'm fortunate right now, but in the next few years, my current situation is going to change and my income is going to drop to about 30% of what I actually have coming in right now.
And that's being fortunate?
Well, like I said, I'm fortunate to have what I have already that I've worked hard for and have saved and put away, and I'm in a situation where my home is mostly paid for, but I cannot imagine starting out. I mean, I'm probably going to, I don't know what I'm going to do. I really don't. I've got 2 years to figure it out, and I may have to sell this property and downsize, which I don't really want to do, but that's something that I'll have to deal with when I could go get sick worrying about it, All I know is for now, today, it's a comfortable setting. But yeah, I'm going to be in the same situation.
It's a comfortable setting, and yet you feel it at the back of your head anyway, that it's something that you have to ponder. And your wife is still out there working.
Absolutely, yeah. Yep. And I can't work now for health reasons, but I don't know what I'm going to do. I may have to go back to work at some point. I'm hoping to get over some of these things that I'm dealing with health-wise, but, there's no guarantee in that either.
So
take it one day at a time.
Something I was going to get into, I briefly brought it up on the Friday show, and that was the price of groceries, the price of utilities, etc. How is that hitting you and the cost of housing, which I guess you're pretty stable with your cost of housing because you're an owner. But how are you and gasoline, driving gasoline?
Gasoline situation for me right now isn't too bad of a deal because the prices aren't too bad, and I don't do a lot of traveling. A little bit more for my wife. She obviously is out there working and driving around a lot, showing houses and things. But what's killing me right now is the cost of the electricity, and not so much the cost of the electricity, but the service charges. The fees to get it to us, which is ridiculous. I don't even know how they were allowed to put those things in place, because that used to be, and I find this across the board with all the companies and all the utility places and cable and all that, you used to pay a certain amount for a provided service. Now you pay a certain amount and nothing is included in that payment. Cable is $150 for 85 channels. But if you want to actually use the channels and watch them, you have to rent their box. And now that is an add-on. And then if you want to have more than one TV, now you have to add on that. And then it's the taxes. And
don't forget the remote.
Yeah, exactly.
You got to pay for it. You got to pay for the remote rental. But the other side of that coin is that you can go out and do a Fire Stick now. One of the reasons why the cable companies are doing this other stuff is because they were giving that stuff for free before, but now that they have competition, they have to raise those. Plus, it costs a lot of money to have these people go down into the ground and tinker with your wires.
Yeah, but I look at it this way. If you are in business doing a certain thing, the cost of doing business used to be put into the price of the service. So if you called a plumber and he was charging $85 an hour, outside of the material parts, you knew what to expect for the $85 an hour, but that was to have him there and have his knowledge or whatever. But now, if you do it the way the cable companies and the power companies doing, the $85 an hour is great, but now they're going to charge you. Well, he had to get up and dress up this morning, so he had to use water, had to take a shower. So we're going to add on the cost of his water for the day, and his shower for the day, and his soap, and his deodorant. And, it's gotten to the point where they charge you for every single thing for them to be in business, including now I'm getting charged for fees on paper, to send me a statement. Now that, if I charge something at Lowe's and I get a bill, they're charging me a $2 statement fee because for them to do business, they have to send out the bill to me. And yeah, I can go paperless, and I understand that. But you know what I'm saying?
Yes, I do. And to your point, and I appreciate it, Sam. Yes. To your point, I had to mail something last week, and I went to the U.S. Postal Service to mail one sheet of paper. I had a large envelope just to make sure I didn't have to fold the piece of paper, and it cost $1.63 for one sheet of paper.
It's crazy, and I've kept up with that a little bit because of what my wife does. She's constantly doing mailings and postcards and all that stuff, and we are just amazed that it's gotten to the point where the U.S. Postal Service can just raise their prices without having to rechange their printing, because you have the forever stamps. Used to be it was 40 cents or 25 cents. I can remember when it was 15 cents and 12 cents, but to mail a first-class envelope. But now, that fee is taken out where they don't have to change their printing system. It's just forever. So they raised the price to, I don't even know what it's up to right now. It must be 85 cents, 75 cents.
73, I believe, for a regular first-class letter.
And I get it. They're doing a lot.
Isn't that something?
Yeah, but it's only because we knew what it used to be. But if you think about the value of what you're getting for that 75 cents or whatever, for them to pick up a letter here at your house or wherever and take it all the way down to Florida or across to California for 85 cents, it's really not a bad deal if you think about it that way. But,
I guess I hear what you're saying, but I'm sorry, because they used to do the same damn thing for a nickel.
Right. Yep.
All right. Everything else has gone up, and I get it. That's why their prices have gone up. We are pricing ourselves out of the ballgame. Hey, man, thanks for the call.
Awesome. Thank you.
I do appreciate it. 508-996-0500. That is it. We, you, me, the companies that we work for or used to work for, we have priced ourselves out of the ballgame. One of the reasons that Donald Trump is trying to tariff the hell out of all these other countries, I don't think it's going to work. I think it's already backfiring. Let me be honest. It is bringing in more money right now, but it's backfiring when that end product gets sold, because the end product is sold to the yous and me's. We're the ones paying for it. No matter what he wants to try to tell you, we are paying for it. China is not paying. India is not paying. Brazil is not paying. Whomever is importing is buying said product from whatever company in that country. When that person wants to get it into U.S. waters and then onto U.S. shores at a U.S. port, that is where that tariff gets paid. Long gone from the hands of China or India or Brazil or Russia. And then it's up to whether it's the importer or the Walmarts or the Amazons or whomever to make a conscious decision. Do we want to eat the cost, or do we pass that cost on to the consumer? And I think in a few instances, you will see the companies eat the cost because they won't be able to do business otherwise. But they will learn the more cost that they have to eat, the fewer times you're going to see that product on a store shelf or being able to order it online. We are pricing ourselves out of the ballgame. Sure, and I get it. $15 $6 an hour for a minimum wage here in the Commonwealth, it doesn't buy a lot. I understand that. You understand that. But the person that was making $15 before, and that was fairly moderate for that person, they're making what, $17, $18, $20 per hour. Everybody's wage, salary has increased, but has the productivity increased? You know, and I know, no, it hasn't. And so, another way of looking at inflation is you got to pay more for that worker. The company has to charge you more because their workers need to go home and be with their family and put food on the table. Well, part of that, again, we are the supply chain. All of us, each and every one of us, whether you are retired or you are working part-time, full-time, a student, we are the supply chain. Whatever we buy, whatever we sell, we are a part of that supply chain. And the prices have gone up. Whatever you're buying, you know costs more. That stick of gum that we used to get for, Wrigley's for 5 cents a pack. That thing is costing what, $1 and change now? Bazooka bubblegum, can you still get it for a penny? You know you can't. I bought some Arm & Hammer baking soda today. I used to get it for 25 cents. I paid $1.69 today over at Stop and Shop. You're thinking, well, what's the big deal? Well, you see, I'm paying $1.69 because whatever Stop and Shop has to pay, they've got to do their markup because their employees have gone out on strike and have pressed for a higher wage and better working conditions and things like family paid leave, stuff like that. I'm not trying to disparage any of this. I'm just trying to tell you what is. Thank you, Bill Clinton, for that statement. And so, not only is it happening at Stop and Shop, when was the last time you went out to eat at a restaurant? There are some good deals going on in the greater New Bedford area right now at restaurants. It's a good deal, but it's still a lot more money than you were paying 2 years ago. I'm not disparaging the workers. I'm not disparaging the quality of the food, the location, parking, any of that kind of stuff. Everything has gone up because we're all a part of the supply chain. And as you look at the tariffs are now added to the supply chain. Whether a company eats whatever it is that they're paying for the product or service, or whether they pass it on to you, that's another part of the supply chain. And so, as I mentioned before, anytime that the president is slapping a tariff on some other country for whatever reason, you're paying for it. If the other country, slaps a tariff on products that we want to export to that country, the system works the same way. Their people, their companies, their importers will be paying for that product to go into that country. Now, there are plenty of countries out there that won't take U.S.-made products for various reasons. So I don't know. To my knowledge, Brazil doesn't take too much that comes from the United States. To my knowledge, India doesn't take much, if anything, that comes from the United States. So I don't know how well this whole tariff regime or regimen is going to work. But no matter how you want to look at it, it's all part of the supply chain. And because everything else has gone up, the tariffs are adding more price to whatever it is that you're going to end up paying for down the road. And if you decide not to buy that product, well, A, you're doing without. B, Apple may be able to afford billions upon billions upon billions of dollars to do more work here in the United States. But what about the struggling startup? What do you expect from them? How do you expect them to compete? They've got to put up with the same crap, the same malarkey that you and I are putting up with when we go to the supermarket, when we go, not so much to the gas station, but when we buy clothing. You know, it's interesting. Here we are on a sales tax holiday weekend. You can buy clothing. You're not going to get taxed on that clothing unless you buy something like a tuxedo that's worth over $2,500, a wedding gown that's worth more than $2,500. We don't get taxed on clothing. So if you notice that the price is higher than the time before, and it's got a label that says made in Pakistan or made in India, made in Indonesia, made in Vietnam, well, chances are that price is higher than the time before because of tariffs, which took effect a couple of days ago, and because the employees at that store are getting paid a little bit more money than a year ago or 2 years ago or 3 years ago, depending on how long that employee has been there. 508-996-0500. Freedom Fools. Freedom is an expensive endeavor.
The speaker at his rally called Puerto Rico a floating island of garbage. Well, let me tell you something. The only garbage I see floating out there is his supporters.
Not that it's bad that rich people are getting richer. It's bad that everyone else is getting poorer. And it's especially bad the young people can't afford homes.
The interest rates, just the interest on the national debt now exceeds the Defense Department spending. We spend a lot on the Defense Department, but we're spending like over $1 trillion on interest. If this continues, the country will become de facto bankrupt.
I want to throw this out there. And I know we're talking a long, long ways away. I was playing that cut from Tucker Carlson. I played 2 or 3 of them on the program today. And he has become larger than life. Obviously, his stint at Fox, and I believe prior to that at CNN, he's a very popular person. When he spoke at a MAGA conservative conference that was headed up by Charlie Kirk a couple of weeks ago, I listened to his speech, and he was saying things at this conservative conference. Witness the excerpts that I've been playing dealing with housing that you would never expect to hear at a conservative conference. And I'm really wondering. I had a faint thought about it, but I never really formulated it. And then I heard Anna Kasparian make a similar comment. In fact, she did it talking to Tucker Carlson in an interview that she did a couple of weeks, not even a couple of weeks ago, with Tucker on his program. What do you think of Tucker Carlson as a 2028 U.S. presidential candidate? Do you think there's any merit? And he stated he's not even thinking along those lines, not even interested, unless he got a higher calling. Now, I'm going to take it because I really don't know. There's no reason for me to believe one way or the other, but I am going to take it that Tucker Carlson is a deeply spiritual, probably religious type of person. And so that higher calling wouldn't be coming from the White House. I mean, talking higher up than that, if there is such a thing as a higher up than the White House. But what do you think? I mean, when I hear an answer like that, and before Kasparian even made her comment, first thing that ran through me, when I hear higher calling, I've heard that line before. And the next thing you know, whomever is running in whatever race. So do you envision Tucker Carlson as either a Republican or an independent presidential candidate? I don't think he would be a Democrat. But he is saying things, talking about housing. He's not upset that the rich are getting richer, but he is about the poor getting poorer. He's staking that claim. And from a populist standpoint, the populace understand where he's coming from. They may not agree with him all the time, but they hear that message. You heard that message with Renee Ledbetter when she was on the program, and you heard a couple of the callers state pretty much the same thing. I don't want to see rent control or rent stabilization here in the Commonwealth. But I believe we are headed in that direction. I don't want to see a statewide or national single-payer healthcare system. But you know what? As healthcare costs keep skyrocketing, people are getting to the particular point where they can't get their prescription drugs. They can't get basic medical care taken care of. Folks that are on Medicaid are looking at cuts. Whether there should be a Medicaid or not, they're looking at cuts. Folks that are on Medicare, they're worried that they're going to get cut. So, my sad deduction is that eventually people are going to feel that they are squeezed into saying, well, what else can we do? You heard Renee Ledbetter. You got to stabilize the rent because she doesn't feel there are any other options. And I believe that there are. I don't know what's really been explored. And we can look at that other shows because housing is going to be a huge issue whether or not it's a ballot question for 2026. Because there are too many people that are looking right now and they can't find it. Or they can't find the occupation or side hustle that will bring in the necessary money so they can afford whatever the going rent rate is, or so they can save up enough money from that side hustle so they can put the down payment on a home. People have been dumbed down so much that they don't know how to look for other sources other than the 200 elected state reps and state senators, plus the governor and lieutenant governor and all of the other constitutionally elected officials. They're looking for government to bail them out. $250+ years ago, we were looking for government to not even be involved in our daily lives. And now here we are. I know it's a long time ago, 250 years. Now you've got people crawling on their knees, skinning their knees, looking for government to help them out. Even, please, control rent to 5%, please. That is what the yous and me's are looking at. So I don't want this rent control or rent stabilization ballot question to pass. I do believe if we're looking at an election this coming Tuesday, that it would pass. And it would probably pass by more than 3 percentage points. I think that there are people that are definitely hurting, people that are definitely affected, and then there are family members, people that know friends that are affected by all of this. So yes, I think it's going to pass. And I don't know what to tell the landlords. I think if I'm a landlord at this particular time, I'm looking to get out of the business, because once rent stabilization passes, it opens up the door to come at you harder and harder, to force you out of business. I think part of this is to hamper apartment owners to where there might be 4 or 5 huge BlackRock type investment companies out there controlling all of the apartments. I know it sounds conspiratorial, but I think that's what we're looking at. I think that the little person is going to get squeezed out of the business. Rent stabilization will be one day. The next time, well, taxes are going to... How about this? How about this time it's rent stabilization for the 2028 ballot? It might be removing Prop 2.5. We got to do something. Again, I think the legislature would gladly oblige, but what they'll probably do is let the ballot question do it for them. And then they'll just dot the I's, cross the T's, and make sure everything goes forward. Meanwhile, keeping Diane DiZoglio or whomever replaces DiZoglio from ever doing an audit on them. That's the way I see it happening here in the Commonwealth. And I believe it's also happening nationwide. Certainly out of Washington, D.C., what used to be a right is now, well, maybe it should be, maybe it should not be. Somebody brought this to my attention. I know I brought it up a while ago. I think it's worth repeating. President Trump took an oath of office to uphold and defend the Constitution. And yet with that interview that he did, I think it was on ABC, it was on Meet the Press. He wasn't sure if he had to. Now, if that doesn't speak at all to what's going on, the idea that somehow, some way, a couple of key paragraphs out of the Article 1 of the Constitution were removed and then replaced back in, dealing with habeas corpus. You know, little things like that. It's testing the mettle of the people. How much can we get away with before somebody really notices? It's like saying, yeah, I want to stop the war, but nobody's listening to me while I really half-ass trying to stop the war. And I felt the same way about Biden, whether he was in his right mind or left mind or whatever mind he was in. Things are really, really screwed up right now. And each of us, we have to take care of ourselves and our families, our loved ones. And I see a battle going on between rent control and those that don't want rent control. We have the battle about who is an immigrant, who's not. There are people still arguing about a police officer who's got a right to be on the new Bedford force, by policy anyway. There are people still arguing about that. So we are a nation, a commonwealth, and an area at odds with each other.
But she's a stupid person, and I'd have meetings with a lot of people, and she always wanted to go to war with people.
It is not Israel's job to feed and clothe and bathe and arm the Gazans until they're strong enough to conduct another October 7th.
Time to pack up the bags and get on out. We'll be back again 6 o'clock tomorrow. No, Monday evening. Tim, 6 o'clock Monday morning. 82 in Taunton, 77 in New Bedford. Adios.
Traveling around from town to town. Sometimes I think I'll settle down, but I know I'd hunger to be free. Roving's the only life for me. Adrifting, the world is my friend. I'm traveling along the road without it.
Everything from clothing to household items are getting more expensive each day. The world of fast fashion has complicated clothing production by outsourcing around the world to whoever can sew them the cheapest. And now you, the consumer, are paying the price with rising costs. American Giant is about keeping things simple and close to home. They aren't affected by tariffs because their products never leave the U.S. So when you buy from American Giant, you're taking a stand for hardworking people, local communities, and quality clothes. American Giant directly supports American manufacturers and ensures you aren't footing that tariff bill. Support American-made, tariff-free clothing with American Giant with American Giant. Get 20% off your first order when you use promo code STAPLE20 at American-Giant.com. That's 20% off when you use code STAPLE20 at American-Giant.com.